Hey there, I'm Douglas from Draftbit. Today we're going to be exploring the action sheet component. This is a component which allows you to overlay a list of options that you can then display to the user. In Draftbit, the action sheet is an overlay that appears at the bottom of the screen. It blocks interaction with the rest of the application until it's dismissed. It's primarily used to offer users a list of interactive options, like choosing from options or confirming certain actions. So how do we create this action sheet? So we go ahead, we go to our component tree, we click add, and then we search for action sheet. So you'll notice when you create the action sheet, it's automatically going to create an action sheet item, and then it's going to put it inside the action sheet as a child component. So by default, the action sheet is not visible. We come here to the data property, and then here where it says show action sheet, we can set this to true. And then once you set that to true, we can now see our action sheet. So it's now opened, and we can see the first one is an option. So we come here where it says action sheet item, we click. So these are the options that will be visible inside our action sheet. So this is the first one. So here we can set a label. So right now it just says option 1. And then we can say apple. So we're going to have an action sheet that has different types of fruits where users can pick apple, orange, or banana. So let's have that. So first, we have an apple. We go back to our action sheet. So we click here, and then we click add, and then we're going to add another action sheet item. So let's just add 2 more. Okay, so we have the first one apple, the second one, and then we have the third one. And as you can see, this is now our action sheet. We have apple, banana, orange. Yeah, but then this is not ideal. Ideally, if we go back to our action sheet, we want a way to be able to open this using a variable. So right now we're setting this to true, or we're setting this to false, but in a real application we want to be opening this using a variable. So let's close this, and then it's going to close our action sheet. We come here where it says variables, and then let's create a variable. We're going to call this variable show action sheet. It's going to be of type boolean. By default it's going to be false. We save, and then we come back to our action sheet, go back to data where it says show action sheet. We're going to tie it to the variable that we just created. So when the variable that we just created is false, right? And then if we go back to this show action sheet, right now it's false. And then if we were to make it true, it's going to show. So this shows us that this action sheet is now tied to this variable. So let's just set it back to false. So ideally we want a button that when clicked is going to set this variable to true, and then thereby opening the action sheet. So we go back to home, we click add, and then we're going to have a button. So this button, instead of saying get started, let's just have it say open action sheet. And then this button on press, when you press this button, we want it to set a variable, and this variable is the show action sheet screen variable. And what do we want to set it to? We want to set it to true. Remember, by default it's false. So when we click this button, that's going to open the action sheet. But then for that to happen, we have to come here, we go away from draft view, and then we go to web preview. Then we click, and then you see our action sheet pops up. But then now we have a dilemma. How do we actually close this action sheet? So to close this action sheet, if we go back to our action sheet and then we click add, so there's this thing called action sheet cancel. So if we click that, you're going to see below our orange is going to add a cancel button. But by default, this cancel button doesn't do anything. We have to actually click this cancel button, go to the interactions, on press. So on press, what do you want to do? On press, we want to set that variable that we have that show action sheet, we want to set it back to false. So now when we click this, it's going to set that variable to true, thereby opening this. When we click on cancel, it's going to set that variable back to false, thereby closing the action sheet. And as you can see, that's now working. Okay, then up next, we're going to look at the action sheet item. So here we're able to change the styles, we're able to change the font color. Yeah, this is very basic. Then here we have the component name. We're able to change the component name. We can just say 1, and then you can see it changes that in the component tree. And you can see it changes that to 1. Here we're able to change the data, we're able to add a label. So that's where we're adding the labels. So apple, banana, orange. That's very straightforward. Then we have this on-press trigger. So each of these items has its own separate on-press trigger. So apple has its own, banana has its own, orange has its own. Right? And then once we click that, we can actually perform a certain action. To say, okay, if I was to click apple, we can actually make a call to the backend. So we can come here, we can say API request. We can make a call to the backend and say the user selected apple, the user selected orange, the user selected this. So, that's why this is very useful. But then for now, let's just console log so that we can see what's happening. And then here, I'm just going to say you clicked apple. For the second one, same thing, you clicked orange. Oh, the second one is banana, right? So you clicked banana. Then the last one is you clicked orange. Okay, let's just double check. Apple, banana, orange. Perfect. So let's close that, and then let's open our console logs here. Make sure you're in web preview. You open the console log, and then let's open. Let's close this, just to make sure that everything is visible. So if I click an apple now, this on press is going to run this action. Then it's going to print this to the console. Okay, let's do that. So apple, then you see you clicked apple. Banana, you clicked banana. Orange, you clicked orange. So yeah, that's how these action sheet items work. We can add as many as we want here. There's no limit. And yeah, as you can see, we can pretty much customize this however we want, and we're actually free to do whatever we want with this. And yeah, I think that's it for the video. Please leave a comment, please like, please share, and yeah, see you in the next one.